The chain bites into your wrist again as you shift your weight, and the pain brings you back to consciousness like a slap. Cold ferrocrete. Darkness. The smell of rust and human waste layered so thick you can taste it on your tongue. You're in a cell. No, not a cell. A holding pen. The kind they use for livestock before the slaughter, except the livestock are you and 200 others crammed into a space meant for 50. Your left eye is swollen shut. You don't remember when that happened. The riot, maybe? Or after. Everything after is fragmented images without sequence, violence without narrative. A shopkeeper's face. Fire in the hab stacks. Somebody screaming your name. The Arbites moving through the underhive like a tide, and you caught in the current because you happened to be standing in the wrong street when the wrong thing happened. You didn't start it. You know that much. You were buying recaf at Mara's stand cheap stuff, bitter, but it was warm when the first stone went through a storefront window. You remember the sound, the crystalline crash, and then the cascade, people running. The herd instinct of the underhive pour when something breaks. You got caught in it. You ran because everyone was running. You threw things because everyone was throwing things. By the time you understood what was happening, you were already guilty of it. The chain rattles as you try to straighten your legs. They're not long enough. Nothing is long enough down here. The pen stretches maybe 10 meters across, and the ceiling presses so close you can touch it if you crouch. Humidity makes everything slick. Sweat, mostly. Fierce sweat, which smells different than work. Sweat sharper, more acidic. You've been down here for, what? 3 days? 4? Time dissolves without light. They turned off the lumens after the first day. Said it was punishment for the noise. There's still noise, though. Someone's crying in the far corner. A man with his face crushed flat is trying to drink water from the drain. 2 others are having sex or fighting, you can't tell which, and nobody moves to stop them because there's nowhere to move. The desperation is palpable. You can feel it radiating off the walls like heat. You shift again, and the chains shift with you. They've got you cuffed to an anchor point set into the ferrocrete. Not everyone is chained, just the ones they think might cause trouble. The Arbites looked at you, really looked at you, when they dragged you in, and something in your face made them decide you were worth restraining. You don't know what that something was. You've never been in trouble before. You worked in the manufactorum before they cut your shift. You kept your head down. You paid your tithes. You didn't ask questions. The woman next to you, she's not chained, but she's close enough that you can hear her breathing, hasn't stopped laughing since they shaved her head. Not laughing like it's funny. Laughing like something inside her has come loose and she can't pack it back in. The guards did it this morning, or maybe it was yesterday. One of them held her head down against the ferrocrete, while another took a blade to her scalp. She didn't fight. She just started laughing. Hasn't stopped. It's a sound like breaking glass, repetitive and sharp, and it's burrowed into your skull so deep you're not sure you'll ever get it out. Stop, you hear yourself say. Your voice is hoarse. You haven't spoken in days. She turns to you. Her eyes are too bright. Stop what? There's no malice in the question. Genuine curiosity, as if you've asked her to stop breathing. The laughing. She considers this. Her scalp is raw, patches of blood dried brown against pale skin. I can't, she says finally. It's the only thing keeping me here. She means sane. She means alive. Then she laughs again, and you understand that she's right. The laughing is the only thing keeping her from screaming. You don't tell her to stop again. The hours blur together. Someone brings water in a bucket. Actual water, not recycled, which means something important is happening. The Arbites don't waste resources on the condemned unless they're preparing to move them. You drink deeply, cupping your hands, and the water tastes like minerals and distant hope. False hope. You know better than to trust hope. Hope is how they keep you docile. Footsteps. Multiple sets. The grinding sound of the gate being opened. The guards come through first. 3 of them, body armor gleaming, las guns held across their chests. Behind them is an officer. She's tall, severe, with the kind of face that's been hardened by years of looking at people like you and deciding what they're worth. "Attention," she says, and her voice carries the weight of absolute authority. "You are being processed for disposition. Your sentence has been determined. You will be transported to the holding ship in 1 hour. You will remain shackled. You will remain silent. Any attempt to escape, any violence toward guards or fellow prisoners will result in immediate execution." She's reading from a data slate, not looking at any of you. Your statistics to her. Numbers on a form. The woman next to you has stopped laughing. That's almost worse. Your sentences are as follows. She scrolls through names. Most of them you don't recognize. Then, Kessel Varn. Incitement to riot. Assault on imperial property. Destruction of commerce infrastructure. Your name. That's your name. Kessel Varn. It sounds foreign in her mouth, like a word from a language you don't speak anymore. Sentence. Penal Legion Service. Cadia Secundus Garrison. Duration of service until death. Until death. Not for a term. Not for a set number of years. Until the thing inside your chest stops beating. Do you accept this sentence or request execution? The question hangs in the air. Around you, other prisoners are being asked the same thing. Most of them don't answer. Some ask for the noose. One man. You hear him before you see him, starts screaming about a trial, about rights, about the Emperor's justice. A guard hits him with something blunt, and he stops. When the officer reaches you, she's waiting for your answer. The chain pulls taut as you try to straighten up. The woman next to you has started laughing again, softer now, as if she's laughing at a joke only she understands. You open your mouth, and the word comes out before you can stop it. Penal Legion. The officer's stylus scratches across her data slate, and your name disappears into the Imperium's machinery, replaced by a number that will follow you until the day you die. The courtroom is smaller than you expected, not the grand halls of imperial justice you've seen in propaganda vids, all marble and gilded eagles. This is utilitarian. Ferrocrete walls, a single luminal strip overhead that flickers with a broken rhythm, and a judge's bench that looks like it was welded together from scrap. The judge sits above you, not by much, maybe a meter, but it's enough. Height is power. You learned that in the underhive. Your wrists are cuffed in front of you. The chains are shorter now, and they've cut into the already bruised skin, leaving wet rings of blood and serum. You can feel the infection starting. The pain has gone from sharp to dull, which is worse. Dull pain means your body has accepted the damage as permanent. The prosecutor is a thin man with a voice like a data servitor. He's reading your crimes: incitement to riot, assault on imperial property, destruction of commerce infrastructure, looting during civil unrest. He strings them together like beads, each one adding weight, each one another nail in the coffin. You don't listen to the details. You already know what you did and didn't do. That stopped mattering 3 days ago. The judge. His name is Malachi. You heard someone say it in the holding pen. Has the look of a man who's performed this ritual 10,000 times. His eyes are gray. Not the living gray of storm clouds, but the dead gray of ferrocrete. He's looking at something on a data slate, and you realize he's not looking at you at all. He's looking at your case file. Your life reduced to text on a screen. You have anything to say? He asks it without looking up. You open your mouth. Your throat is sandpaper. They haven't given you water since yesterday. You try anyway. I didn't start. I don't care, he says, still reading. The evidence is sufficient. The witnesses are credible. You were present. You participated. That's all that matters. The woman next to you, a public advocate, though she barely spoke to you before coming in here, puts her hand on your shoulder. A warning. Don't make it worse. The judge finally looks at you. His eyes are empty. Not cruel, just empty. Like looking at a broken machine and deciding whether to repair it or recycle it. Kessel Varn, he says, and your name sounds like a verdict already. You are found guilty of incitement to riot, assault on imperial property, and destruction of commerce infrastructure during civil unrest. These are serious crimes. They undermine the stability of the Imperium. They endanger the lives of loyal citizens. They waste imperial resources that could be better spent on the Emperor's work. He sets down the data slate, folds his hands. You realize this is the moment. This is where your life divides into before and after. You have two options, he continues, his voice perfectly level. First, execution. By firing squad tomorrow morning. Clean. Efficient. Your debts to the Imperium paid in blood. The room is so quiet you can hear the electrical hum of the luminal strip overhead. Second, penal legion service. Cadia Secundus Garrison, duration of service until death. You will serve the Imperium as expendable infantry. You will be given equipment, training, and the opportunity to die in service to the Emperor. If you survive, and you will not, your sentence may be commuted. This is the Emperor's mercy. He leans back in his chair. Which do you choose? The silence stretches. You can feel the public advocate's hand tightening on your shoulder. A warning. Choose the Legion. Choose the gun. Choose anything but the rope, because the rope is final. The rope is the full stop at the end of your story. The Legion is at least a sentence that hasn't finished yet. But the gun is what he said. You'll be given a gun. A lasgun, probably. The same kind the Arbites carry. The same kind that killed the man whose face was crushed in the holding pen when he tried to drink from the drain. The gun is how you'll die. You know that. Everyone knows that. Penal legionnaires are meat. They're the bodies they throw at problems until the problems go away or the bodies run out. But it's a choice. That's what matters. The rope is predetermined. The gun is a choice you make. Penal legion, you hear yourself say. Your voice doesn't sound like your own. It sounds like something speaking through your mouth, something that understands the calculus better than you do. The judge nods as if you've confirmed something he already knew. He picks up his stylus and makes a mark on the data slate. Just a line, just a gesture, but you feel it like a brand. Sentence recorded, he says. You will be transferred to holding ship designation, eternal judgment, departing for Cadia Secundus in 12 hours. You will be processed, equipped, and deployed. May the Emperor's light guide your final days. He's already looking at the next case file. You're dismissed. You're gone. The guards move in with the casual efficiency of men who've done this 1,000 times. They chain you to another prisoner, a woman with burned scars on her neck, and lead you back toward the detention block. Your advocate doesn't follow. She's already moving on to the next condemned, the next futile gesture toward justice. As you're led down the corridor, you catch your reflection in a polished metal wall panel. Your left eye is still swollen shut. Your hair is matted with blood and sweat. Your face is gaunt, hollowed out by fear and hunger. You don't recognize yourself. That person in the reflection looks like someone who's already dead, just hasn't stopped moving yet. The woman chained to you speaks for the first time. You picked the gun, she says. It's not a question. Yeah. Good choice, she says, and there's something almost gentle in her voice. At least you'll be doing something. At least you won't be waiting. You don't tell her that you're terrified, that every breath feels like it might be your last, that you'd give anything to take it back, to choose the rope, to end it in one clean moment instead of however many moments they'll give you before the Xenos or the guards or the weight of the gun itself finally puts you down. You don't say any of that, because she already knows. Everyone already knows. You're all walking dead. The only question is how long the walk will take. The transport lurches forward with a grinding of metal, and the chains rattle against the deck as they begin moving you toward the bay doors and whatever waits beyond. The transport bay is vast in a way that makes you understand, for the first time, the true scale of Imperial indifference. It's a cavern of ferrocrete and steel, lit by industrial lumens that cast everything in a sickly yellow-white. The air tastes like ozone and machine oil. Somewhere above, you can hear the deep thrumming of ship engines spooling up, a sound that reverberates in your chest cavity, making your heart skip in rhythm with it. This is real. This is happening now. They herd you through in groups of 20, chains linking you wrist to wrist in a human chain that stumbles and reorganizes itself with each shuffling step. The guards don't rush. They don't need to. There's nowhere to run. The bay doors behind you are sealed. The only exit is forward, into the belly of something that will carry you away from everything you've ever known. 200 of you. You catch that number from a guard's vox chatter. 200 condemned, processed, sentenced, and ready for transport. 200 lives that the Imperium has decided are worth less than the bullets they'll put through you. The woman chained to your left, the one with the burn scars on her neck, keeps her head down. The man to your right is praying in a low, urgent whisper. You don't recognize the prayer. It's not Imperial liturgy. It's something older, something private, something he's holding on to because it's the only thing they can't take from him yet. The woman from the holding pen is somewhere in the crowd. You don't see her at first, but then you hear her. The laughing. It cuts through the ambient noise like a blade, not the sharp, breaking glass sound from before. This is different. This is the laughing of someone who's accepted something fundamental about their situation and found it absurd. She's 3 chains ahead of you, her freshly shaved head catching the light. Her scalp has stopped bleeding, but it's still raw, still seeping. There's dried blood in the creases of her neck. That one's gone, the man praying says quietly, following your gaze. He's older, maybe 50, with the weathered face of someone who worked outdoors before they ended up here. Saw her in the pen. Hasn't stopped since they cut her hair. Why, you ask? It's a stupid question. There is no why. The Arbites don't have reasons. They have procedures. Doesn't matter, he says, and returns to his prayer. The guards direct you toward a ramp that leads up into the transport vessel. It's a squat, brutal thing, all exposed piping and patched hull plates. The name is stenciled on the side in faded Imperial script, Eternal Judgment. Somehow, that's worse than if it had no name at all. The Imperium names its things, it catalogs them, it keeps records. You're not just dying, you're being documented while you do it. The laughing woman is laughing harder now. You can see her shoulders shaking. One of the guards moves toward her, and for a moment you think he's going to hit her, but he just prods her forward with the barrel of his lasgun. She doesn't seem to notice. She's laughing at something only she can see, and the sound echoes off the metal walls of the bay until it seems to come from everywhere at once. The ramp is steep, and the chains make climbing difficult. The woman in front of you. Not the laughing one. A different woman with gray threading through her dark hair stumbles on the third step. The chain jerks you forward, and you nearly fall. The man behind you catches you, and for a moment there's a strange kind of solidarity, a brief acknowledgement that you're all drowning together. Then the chain pulls taut again, and the moment passes. Inside the transport hold, the air is colder. It smells like rust and something else, something organic and wrong. You realize it's the accumulated stench of fear. Sweat from previous shipments, absorbed into the metal walls, layered there by months or years of condemned prisoners making this same journey. The walls are scarred. There are marks that might be fingernail scratches. There are dark stains that might be blood. There are things written in various hands, in languages you don't recognize, in what might be prayers or curses, or just the desperate need to leave some mark that says, "I was here." The guards begin separating you into sections, dividing the 200 into manageable chunks. They chain you to anchor points set into the deck. The chains are longer here. You have maybe a meter of movement in any direction, enough to sit. Enough to lie down if you curl up. Not enough for anything else. The hold is crammed with bodies, and the body heat from 200 people in an enclosed space is already making you sweat. The laughing woman is 2 sections over. You can still hear her, even over the ambient noise of the ship preparing for departure. Other prisoners are talking now, voices carrying in the hold. Some are praying. Some are crying. Some are trying to organize themselves, asking names, trying to find familiar faces from the riots or the holding pen. It's a futile kind of hope. The need to not die completely alone, even though you'll almost certainly die completely alone. You find a spot against the wall and sit down. The metal is cold through your prison clothes. Your wrists are throbbing where the chains bite in. You're exhausted in a way that sleep won't fix. It's the exhaustion of someone who's been running on terror for days, and now that you've stopped moving, the weight of it is crushing you. The woman chained nearest to you, the one with gray in her hair, sits down too. She's breathing heavily, as if the climb up the ramp took everything she had. "First time on a transport?" she asks. You nod. "It gets worse," she says, not unkindly. "The ship will be sealed soon. Then the gravity engines kick in. Your stomach will feel like it's trying to leave your body. And the noise. You won't be able to think. You'll just exist in the noise until you can't anymore." "How do you know?" you ask. "Been through this before," she says. She holds up her wrist, and you see the scars. Multiple chains have worn grooves into her skin over years. Penal Legion doesn't usually take repeat offenders. But I survived my first posting. Came back to the Underhive, did something stupid, got caught again. They're sending me back. Probably to die this time. She says it matter-of-factly, the way someone might comment on the weather, and you realize she's not trying to scare you. She's trying to prepare you, the way a veteran prepares a child for a truth they'll learn anyway. You nod again, and she turns away, staring at the rust-streaked wall of the transport bay, as more bodies press in around you both, and the air grows thick with the breath of the condemned. The ship's engines are singing now, a deep vibration that starts in your bones and works its way outward until your entire body resonates with it. You've been in the hold for what feels like hours, though time has become unreliable. There's no chronometer visible, no natural light, just the steady thrumming of the engines and the yellow-white glare of the industrial lumens overhead. And gradually, you begin to understand that you will never see the Underhive again. It's not a thought that arrives all at once. It creeps in like the cold from the metal walls, settling into the spaces between your ribs, making itself at home. You've known intellectually that you're leaving. The judge said it. The guards herding you aboard confirmed it. But knowing and understanding are different things, and understanding doesn't fully arrive until you feel the ship move. There's a lurch, subtle but unmistakable, and the deck beneath you shifts. Your stomach lurches with it. The woman with gray in her hair was right. The gravity engines are compensating, fighting against the momentum, and your body is caught between two different versions of down. Around you, prisoners gasp and grip the chains as if the chains might save them. Someone vomits. The smell adds itself to the rust and desperation already hanging thick in the air. The laughing woman is silent now. You notice it the way you notice the absence of a sound you've grown accustomed to. Her silence is louder than her laughing was. You can't see her from where you're sitting, but you can feel the change in the atmosphere of the hold. A subtle shift, as if everyone has collectively held their breath and nobody's quite sure when they're allowed to exhale again. The ship shudders. It's a different kind of movement this time, not the internal adjustment of gravity engines, but something external, the magnetic locks releasing from the station, the umbilical connections severing. You're no longer tethered. You're no longer connected to anything. The hold suddenly feels smaller, though nothing has physically changed. It's just that the walls are no longer the walls of a station. They're the walls of a ship. And ships travel through the void. Your throat tightens. You're aware of your breathing now in a way you weren't before. Each breath feels like it's using air that won't be replaced, even though that's irrational. The hold has life support. It must, otherwise you'd all be dead already. But rationality doesn't matter much when you're chained in the belly of a vessel accelerating away from everything you've ever known. The man who was praying is praying louder now. His words are coming faster, tumbling over each other in a desperate rush. You still don't recognize the prayer, but you recognize the tone. It's the tone of someone trying to negotiate with something vast and indifferent. It's the tone of someone who understands, finally, that they're out of options. The woman next to you is staring at her hands. Her fingers are shaking. She's making fists and then releasing them, making fists and releasing them over and over, as if she's testing whether her hands still belong to her. Gravity compensation kicks in a moment, she says quietly. Her voice is steady, but her hands keep making those fists. After that, you'll be able to think again. But right now, just breathe. Just sit here and breathe. You try. But breathing feels like an act of faith, and your faith is running thin. The ship lurches again, a sickening, nauseating sensation, and suddenly the weight normalizes. Your stomach settles, the pressure in your skull eases. But something fundamental has shifted in the room, and you know it's not coming back. The lurch was the moment. That was the moment you left. That was the moment you stopped being someone who lived in the underhive and became someone who used to live in the underhive. Past tense. Already dead in every way that matters. Around you, prisoners are crying now. Not loud, not dramatically, just quiet tears, the kind that come from the deepest part of you, the part that understands what's happened before your conscious mind catches up. The woman next to you is still staring at her hands. The man is still praying, but the words have slowed down, become more measured, as if he's accepted that the thing he's negotiating with has already made its decision. You lean your head back against the cold metal wall and close your eyes. The darkness behind your eyelids is the same as the darkness in the hold. There's no difference anymore between inside and outside. You're contained now. Sealed. Part of the ship's architecture, just another piece of meat in the machinery. The underhive is gone. Not destroyed, not damaged, just gone. Beyond your reach, beyond your return. You've been erased from it as completely as if you'd never existed, and it will continue without you, the way it continued before you were born. The riots will be cleaned up. The broken buildings will be repaired or demolished. The Arbites will file their reports, and the judge will sentence the next batch of condemned, and the transport ships will keep leaving, carrying away the bodies the Imperium has decided it doesn't need. You are no longer part of that world. You are no longer part of anything except this hold, this ship, this journey toward a garrison on a world you've never seen, to fight enemies you can't imagine until you die in a way you can't predict. The Penal Legion doesn't promise anything except that ending. It's the only thing it guarantees. The engines settle into a steady rhythm, and you understand that this is your life now. This sound, this smell, this weight, this is all there is, and there will never be anything else. The landing struts hit the ground hard enough to rattle your teeth. The deceleration isn't gradual, it's a sudden, violent arrest of momentum that throws everyone against their chains. Your shoulders wrench. Someone screams, the lights flicker once, twice, then stabilize. The engines wind down from their constant thrumming to something almost manageable. Still loud, still everywhere, but no longer the only thing that exists. The hold smells different now. The recycled air has been fouled by 2 weeks of unwashed bodies, waste, and desperation. You've stopped noticing it. That's how you know it's bad, when your own senses surrender. The woman next to you hasn't moved in days. You think she might be dead. You don't check. Checking means acknowledging. Acknowledging means caring. Caring is a luxury you can't afford. The doors open. Light floods in. Harsh, white, and real. Natural light. The sun of a world that isn't the underhive. It's too bright. Your eyes water. Around you, prisoners shield their faces, squinting against the glare like creatures pulled from a cave system. Which is what you are. That's what they've made you. Creatures of darkness and confinement suddenly exposed. The guards come in first. They're different from the station guards. Harder. Older. Older. They move with the casual violence of people who've been killing for so long. It's just another part of their routine. They're wearing the uniform of the Penal Legion black fatigues with the skull and chains insignia on the shoulder. They're not here to process you. They're here to own you. On your feet, one of them says. His voice is flat, empty of anything resembling humanity. Slow. Chains come off. You stumble, you fall, you don't get up. You understand? Nobody answers. There's nothing to answer with. The chains come off in sections. Your wrists are white, where the metal has been pressing into you for 2 weeks. The skin underneath is raw, weeping a thin, clear fluid. The moment the chain releases, you feel lighter and heavier at the same time. Lighter because the weight is gone, heavier because now you have to carry yourself. You're not sure your legs remember how. The prisoners shuffle down the ramp in a loose column. The light is blinding. The air is different, hotter, drier, with the smell of dust and something chemical you can't identify. Your eyes are still adjusting. Everything is shapes and glare. Gradually, details resolve. You're in a landing bay, not a station. A base. The ground is packed earth and duracrete. There are prefabricated structures around you, barracks, you think, though they're more cages than buildings. The walls are corrugated metal. The sky above is wrong. It's too clear. Too blue. You've never seen that much uninterrupted sky. It makes you feel exposed, like something might reach down from that vastness and pluck you up. There are other soldiers here. Not guards. Soldiers. They're watching you with the kind of interest a predator watches prey. Some of them are wearing the same black Penal Legion fatigues. Others are in different uniforms. Imperial Guard, you think, though you've never seen them in person before. They look healthier than the Penal Legion soldiers, less worn down. They're standing back, maintaining distance, as if condemned prisoners might be contagious. Form up, the first guard says. 2 lines, shoulder width, move. The prisoners shuffle into formation. It's a mess. Nobody knows what shoulder width means when you're exhausted, disoriented, and your legs are threatening to give out. The guards don't correct you. They just watch. There's something worse about not being corrected. It means they don't care enough to fix it. You're not worth the effort. Then he arrives. The sergeant is tall, not exceptionally, but tall enough that he stands out among the prisoners. He's wearing the same black fatigues as the other guards, but there's something different about him. The way he moves. The way the other guards step aside when he approaches. He's got a scar that runs from his left eye to his jaw, pulling his face into a permanent expression of contempt. His head is shaved. His arms are thick with muscle that speaks of decades spent doing violence. His eyes are the color of old metal, and they're looking at you with the kind of assessment a butcher gives to meat on a hook. "I'm Sergeant Volk," he says. His voice is quiet. That's the worst part. It's quiet. It's not a shout. It's not a threat. It's just a statement of fact, delivered in a conversational tone, and somehow that's more terrifying than any amount of screaming. I'm going to be your sergeant. That means I own you. I own your bodies. I own your time. I own your lives. You belong to me now. You are no longer citizens. You are no longer people. You are meat. You are ammunition. You are the things we throw at the enemy when we don't want to spend real soldiers. He walks down the line, his eyes moving from face to face. He doesn't pause. He doesn't linger. He just looks, cataloging, assessing, deciding who will die first. You're already dead, he says. You just don't know it yet. You think you're going to live. You think you're going to survive this. You think you're going to see home again, or see your families again, or live long enough to matter. You're wrong. Every single one of you is going to die. Some of you will die on the training ground. Some of you will die on your first deployment. Some of you might last a few months before the enemy gets you. But every single one of you will die. The only question is how much use I can get out of you before that happens. He's reached the middle of the line now. He stops. There's a prisoner there, a man you haven't noticed before. He's younger than most, maybe early 20s, with the kind of face that suggests he got into trouble because he was stupid rather than desperate. The man is trembling. You can see it from where you're standing. His hands are shaking. His jaw is clenching and unclenching. "What's your name, prisoner?" Volk asks. The man's mouth opens. Nothing comes out. He tries again. Kess, he stammers. "My name is Kess." "Well, Kess," Volk says, "you're going to learn something today. You're going to learn what happens when you show fear in front of your unit. And you're going to learn it right now. The first punch comes before you can even process the order to run. It's not aimed at Kess. It's a demonstration." Volk's fist moves like something mechanical, efficient, and without mercy, and it connects with Kess's sternum hard enough to drive the air from his lungs. The man doubles over. He's trying to breathe. He's trying to make sound, but there's nothing there, just the wheeze of a body learning it can be broken. Volk hits him again. Across the face this time. Kess falls. His nose is bleeding. His mouth is opening and closing like a fish pulled from water. "That," Volk says, stepping over him without looking down, "is what fear costs." He turns to face the rest of you. His knuckles are bleeding. He doesn't seem to notice or care. We run at dawn, every day, until I decide we stop. You will carry ammunition crates. You will carry supplies. You will carry whatever I tell you to carry. You will move at the pace I set. Anyone who falls behind gets shot. Anyone who complains gets shot. Anyone who tries to run gets shot. Anyone who stops gets shot. The only way to survive today is to move faster than the person next to you, and hope that person is slower than the person behind them. He pauses. His eyes are scanning the line again. Dismissed to barracks. Chow in 1 hour. Get some sleep. Tomorrow, you learn what the Penal Legion actually is. The guards herd you toward the prefabricated structures. You move with the crowd, your legs still unsteady from the weeks in the ship's hold. Kes is being carried by 2 other prisoners. His face is a mess of blood and swelling. He's conscious but not really present. His eyes are open, but they're looking at something that isn't there. You don't know if he's going to survive the night. You don't think about it too hard. The barracks are worse than the hold. At least the hold was familiar by the end. These are long metal boxes divided into sections, each section holding 20 bunks stacked 3 high. There's a toilet in the corner. There's a sink. There's nothing else. No privacy. No space. No mercy. You find an empty bunk in the middle tier and collapse into it. The mattress is thin enough that you can feel the metal frame beneath it. The pillow is the same material as the mattress. Around you, prisoners are trying to sleep. Some are crying quietly. Some are praying again. Some are just staring at the ceiling, their eyes open, their minds clearly somewhere else. You try to sleep. Your body needs it, but your mind won't stop running through possibilities, and all of them end the same way. You're going to die here. The thought doesn't feel like a revelation anymore. It feels like a fact settling into place, like gravity, like the color of the sky. You're going to die in this place, on this world, in service to an Imperium that doesn't care if you live or die as long as you die fighting. The judge gave you a choice, the rope or the gun. You chose the gun because you thought it was the better option. You thought a chance at life was better than certain death. But looking back now, from this bunk, staring at the metal ceiling inches from your face, you're not sure you made the right call. At least the rope would have been quick. You close your eyes. Sleep doesn't come, but a kind of numbness does. Your body is too exhausted to stay afraid. Fear requires energy, and you have none left. There's just the metal ceiling. Just the sound of breathing around you. Just the knowledge that in a few hours, Volk will come, and you'll have to run. Dawn comes too fast. The lights in the barracks flick on all at once. Harsh white lumens that turn night into day with no transition. An alarm is sounding. It's not a gentle wake-up. It's the sound of something breaking, high-pitched and insistent. Guards are in the barracks. They're moving down the aisles with shock sticks, jabbing at prisoners who aren't moving fast enough. You're off your bunk before you're fully awake, scrambling down to the floor with a dozen other people. "Outside!" a guard shouts. "Formation." 2 minutes. The prisoners stumble out into the pre-dawn darkness. The sky is starting to lighten at the edges, but it's still mostly black. The air is cold. Colder than you expected. Your breath is misting. The ground beneath your feet is hard-packed earth with patches of frost. You line up with the others, trying to orient yourself, trying to understand what's happening. Volk emerges from the darkness like something conjured. "You have 60 seconds to get to the ammunition depot and back with a full crate," he says. The depot is 3 kilometers north. The path goes up. Scrap Yep Ridge. The crates weigh 30 kilograms each. You will not put them down. You will not rest. You will not stop. When you reach the top, you turn around and come back. If you're not back in 90 minutes, you're dead. If you fall, you're dead. If you try to run, you're dead. If you slow down, you're dead. The only way to survive this is to move faster than you've ever moved in your life. He points north. There's a barely visible path leading up a ridge made entirely of scrap metal and industrial waste. It looks like the Underhive's garbage dump, except vertical. Except it's going to try to kill you. Go. The prisoners scatter. There's no organization to it. Everyone is trying to move forward at once, and the result is chaos. You push through the crowd, trying to get to the depot first, trying to get a good position. The depot is a simple structure, corrugated metal walls, open front. There are crates stacked inside. Ammunition crates. You grab one. Your fingers find the handles. Your legs find the strength. You start running. The path up the ridge is worse than you imagined. The scrap metal isn't stable. It shifts under your feet. Every step is a negotiation with gravity. The crate is heavy, heavier than you expected. Your arms are already burning. Your lungs are already protesting. You're 50 meters up the ridge and you feel like you're going to die. Behind you, you hear the sound of lasguns firing. It's not sustained fire, it's single shots. Measured. Deliberate. You don't look back. You know what's happening. Stragglers are being picked off. You push harder, lungs screaming, the crate's weight a physical thing trying to drag you backward into the fire, and you climb because stopping means joining the bodies already cooling on the scrap behind you. 3 days pass like this. You wake in darkness. You run until your body forgets what pain is and just becomes pain. You carry ammunition crates up an incline that seems to grow steeper each time, as if the mountain itself is learning to hate you more effectively. You come back down. Your legs don't work right anymore. They move because they have to, not because you're commanding them. You eat something that tastes like recycled protein and regret. You collapse into your bunk. You sleep without dreaming because dreaming requires a mind that's still functioning, and yours has mostly shut down. The other prisoners are starting to break. You can see it in their faces. The initial shock is wearing off, and what's replacing it is worse. The realization that this isn't going to end. That every day will be exactly like this. That the only escape is death, and death is starting to look like a mercy. Cray is in the bunk below yours. You don't know much about him. Nobody knows much about anyone here. Names are dangerous. Knowing someone's story makes them real, and real people dying hurts more than abstractions. But Cray has been talking in his sleep, crying, calling for his mother. You've been trying not to listen, but the barracks are close enough that you can hear everything. On the second night, he was begging someone named Ella to forgive him. You don't know what he did or what he needs forgiveness for, and you don't want to know. On the third night, he doesn't come back from the run. You don't notice at first. You're too exhausted. You collapse into your bunk, and your body immediately begins the process of shutting down. But then, the alarm sounds. Not the wake-up alarm. A different one. A warning tone. The guards come into the barracks and they're moving with purpose. They're checking bumps. They're counting. Their faces are hard in a different way. Not the casual cruelty of routine, but the focused anger of someone who's been given a problem to solve. "Prisoner missing," one of them announces. Barracks 12, Bunk 47. Cray, designation number 7439221. The name hits you wrong. Hearing it said out loud makes him real, makes him a person. You don't want him to be a person. People matter. People dying matters. "Form up outside," the guard says. "All prisoners, all units. Now." The exodus from the barracks is immediate and frantic. Everyone knows what this means. Everyone has been waiting for it. Someone ran. Someone finally couldn't take it anymore and decided that running was better than staying. Everyone is moving toward the exit, pushing, shoving, trying to get outside before the guards get impatient and start using their shock sticks. You file out into the night. The base is lit by floodlights mounted on poles, harsh white light that turns everything into stark shadow and glare. There are hundreds of you now. All the prisoners from all the barracks. You're being herded into a formation that faces north, toward the perimeter fence. The fence is simple, Just chain link and barbed wire, but it's electrified. You can hear the hum of it from here. You can see the occasional spark where an insect flies too close and gets incinerated. Beyond the fence, there's nothing but darkness and the distant sound of wind moving across an empty plain. Volk walks to the center of the formation. His scar catches the floodlight, making it look like a groove of shadow across his face. He's holding a voxcaster. When he speaks, his voice comes out of speakers mounted on the poles, making him sound like a god delivering judgment. "Prisoner Cray," Volk says, "has decided to leave us. He has decided that the penal legion is not for him. He has decided that running into the darkness is preferable to serving the Imperium. I want to thank him. I want to thank him for making this lesson very clear for all of you." He pauses. The wind picks up. You can hear it now, underneath the hum of the fence. It sounds like something breathing. "Searchlights," Volk commands. The floodlights swing. They're not following something. They're searching, scanning the darkness beyond the fence in a methodical pattern, back and forth. Back and forth. You're squinting against the light. Your eyes are watering. The other prisoners are silent. Everyone is holding their breath. Then the searchlights catch him. Cray is about 200 meters out, running. He's running toward the darkness, away from the fence, away from the base. He's running in that desperate, uncoordinated way of someone who's being hunted. His arms are pumping. His legs are churning. He's making sounds, not words, just raw sounds of effort and terror. He doesn't know he's been caught by the lights. Or maybe he does. Maybe he can feel them on his back, and he's hoping that if he just runs fast enough, if he just keeps going, he'll reach something. Anything. Somewhere that isn't here. "Fire," Volk says. The las guns come up. There are guards positioned around the perimeter, and they've been waiting for this moment. Their discipline is perfect. They don't hesitate. They don't second guess. They just raise their weapons, and they fire. Cray's body jerks once. Then again. The searchlights keep him illuminated, pinned like an insect on a board, and you watch as the bolts of red energy punch through him. There's no blood from this distance. There's just the impact. Just the way his body stops running and starts falling. Just the way the light catches him one last time as he hits the ground. He doesn't move after that. The searchlights linger for a moment, making sure. Then they swing back toward the formation. The guards lower their weapons. Volk is still standing in the center, the voxcaster still in his hand. "That," he says, "is what happens when you run. That is what happens when you forget that you are meat. That is what happens when you think you can escape the Imperium's will. Prisoner Cray is no longer a problem. Prisoner Cray is a solution. He has shown all of you what the end of this road looks like. He has given his life to teach you a lesson. You will remember this lesson. You will remember it every time you think about running. You will remember it until you die." He lowers the voxcaster. His eyes find yours in the dark, and you understand without words that this is the price of hope. That watching Cray die was your real initiation, not the chains or the running or anything that came before. You will remember his body in the lights every day you survive after this. A week passes before they trust you with live ammunition. 7 days of carrying crates. 7 days of watching prisoners collapse and get shot. 7 days of your body learning new definitions of exhaustion. 7 days of Volk's voice in your head even when you're sleeping. Faster, harder, die harder, until you can't remember what your own thoughts sound like anymore. The running becomes automatic. Your legs move. Your lungs burn. You come back alive, and that's the only victory that matters. On the 8th day, they march you to the firing range. It's at the edge of the compound, past the motor pool, past the ammunition storage, past the medical tent where they take the prisoners who are still salvageable. The range is simple. A stretch of cracked permacrete with targets set up at varying distances, and beyond the targets, a ravine that drops away into shadow. The sky above is the color of rust. Everything here is the color of rust. There are other units already there. You recognize some of them from the barracks. They look like you look, hollowed out, moving in that jerky way of people whose bodies are running on fumes and fear. A sergeant you don't know is standing in front of a weapons rack, handing out las guns to prisoners as they file past. The guns are heavier than you expected. The grip is warm, like someone just put it down. Maybe they did. Maybe someone just died holding this gun and now it's yours. "Load and make ready," the sergeant says. His voice is bored. This is routine for him. You're just meat learning to point and shoot before you get thrown into the grinder. You watch the prisoner next to you, a man with a scarred neck and hands that won't stop shaking, fumble with the charge pack. The lasgun's mechanism isn't complicated, but when you're terrified and exhausted and haven't eaten anything substantial in a week, even simple becomes impossible. His fingers slip. The charge pack falls. It hits the permacrete and bounces. He freezes. Everyone freezes. Dropping equipment is a sin. Dropping equipment means Volk will notice. Volk noticing is the last thing anyone wants. But the sergeant just sighs and points to the ammunition station. "Get another," he says. "You're wasting daylight." The scarred man hurries off. You load your own charge pack. The mechanism clicks into place. The power indicator glows red, charged and ready. You've never fired a lasgun before. You've never fired anything before. You don't know if you're doing it right, but nobody's correcting you, so you must be close enough. The sergeant walks down the line. "You will fire at the targets," he says. "You will aim for center mass. You will fire until I tell you to stop. You will not fire at anything except the targets. You will not fire at each other. You will not fire at me. If you do any of those things, you will be shot immediately." Understood? Nobody answers. Silence is the safest response. "Understood?" he repeats, louder. "Yes, Sergeant." The prisoners respond in an uneven chorus. Targets are at 50 meters, 75 meters, and 100 meters. He continues. Each of you will fire 10 rounds at each distance. That's 30 rounds per prisoner. You have 1 magazine per prisoner. If you miss, you don't get to reload. If you run out of ammunition, you stand there with an empty gun and you think about what you did wrong. Fire on my command. He raises his arm. You raise your lasgun. The weapon feels alien in your hands, like you're holding something alive that might bite. Your shoulder is sore from the running. Your arms are weak. You're not sure you can even aim properly, but you raise it anyway because that's what everyone else is doing. "Fire!" the sergeant says. The sound is nothing like you expected. It's not loud. It's almost quiet, a sharp crack of energy that seems to come from inside your skull. The gun kicks against your shoulder. The barrel glows faintly. The energy bolt streaks downrange and hits the target at 50 meters. You can see the impact. A small burn mark on the paper. You hit it. You actually hit it. Around you, other prisoners are firing. The sound is strange. Dozens of lasguns discharging at once, creating a rhythm that sounds almost musical if you don't think too hard about what the sound means. The scarred man next to you is firing methodically. His hands have stopped shaking. Maybe the gun gives him something to focus on. Maybe the gun is easier than thinking. You fire again. Hit. Again. Miss. Again. Hit. The targets are moving now? No, you're moving. Your hands are shaking. Your breathing is uneven. You're trying to control your heart rate, but it's too fast, too loud, and you're burning through your magazine faster than you should. The sergeant is walking down the line, watching. His expression doesn't change. He's seen this before. He's seen 1,000 prisoners pick up guns for the first time. Most of them are going to die. He knows it. You're starting to know it. But for now, you fire. You move to the 75-meter line. The targets are smaller now, harder to hit. You miss more often. Your arm is shaking with fatigue. The gun feels heavier. Your breath is ragged. You're down to 5 rounds left in your magazine, and you've only fired at 2 distances. The sergeant is still walking. He stops next to a prisoner, 2 spots down from you. The prisoner is a young man. Couldn't be more than 20, which means he's been arrested for something minor, something stupid, something that shouldn't have cost him his life. He's firing carefully, methodically, hitting more targets than he's missing. He's good. Too good. The sergeant notices. "You," the sergeant says. "What's your name?" The prisoner lowers his gun. "Torvin, Sergeant. You fired before. Hunting, Sergeant. Back home." The sergeant nods slowly. He's thinking. You can see it happening. The gears turning. A prisoner who's good with a gun is useful. A prisoner who's good with a gun is dangerous. But a prisoner who's good with a gun and who doesn't question orders, that's valuable. That's someone who can be used. "Keep it up," the sergeant says, and he walks past. You turn back to the targets. You raise your gun. You're on the 100-meter line now, and your magazine is almost empty. 2 rounds left. You need to make them count. You fire, and both rounds find their marks. Clean, center mass, the target's shuddering with the impact, and you realize in that moment that you've just made yourself indispensable, which might be the worst thing that could happen to you in this place. The hold of the transport ship smells like promethium and vomit and something else you can't quite name, something organic and wrong, like meat left too long in the sun. You're packed shoulder to shoulder with 200 other prisoners, all of you crammed into a space designed for half that many, all of you breathing the same recycled air until it feels thick enough to choke on. The deck plates vibrate beneath your feet with a frequency that makes your teeth ache. Around you, men are praying. Some of them are crying. Some of them are staring at nothing, their eyes already dead. You've been aboard for 6 hours. The transport lifted off from the penal compound at dawn, and since then, there's been nothing but the roar of the engines and the sensation of climbing. The ship is old. You can tell from the way it groans, from the way panels in the ceiling rattle loose, from the way the artificial gravity stutters occasionally and makes everyone's stomach lurch. Somewhere in the depths of the vessel, something mechanical is screaming. Nobody comments on it anymore. The screaming is just part of the background now, like the humming of the life support systems or the occasional shriek of hydraulics as the ship adjusts its trajectory. You're standing pressed against a wall, your rifle held awkwardly against your chest because there's nowhere else to put it. Your palms are sweating. You've noticed that you sweat a lot now, constantly, even when you're cold. Your body is in a state of perpetual fear, and sweat is what fear produces. Sweat and a racing heartbeat and the metallic taste of adrenaline that won't go away no matter how many times you swallow. The man next to you is trembling. He's younger than you, maybe 19, and his eyes keep darting around like he's looking for an escape route. There are no escape routes. You're in the belly of a ship moving through the void toward a world you don't know, where you'll probably die in ways you haven't imagined yet. The trembling man doesn't understand this yet. He's still thinking in terms of escape. He's still thinking in terms of options. "First drop?" you ask quietly. He doesn't answer. Maybe he didn't hear you. Maybe he's decided not to engage. Smart. Talking uses energy. Energy is precious. The ship banks suddenly, and the change in gravity nearly throws you off your feet. Men stumble. Someone falls and gets trampled. Nobody helps him up. The crowd just flows around him like water around a stone. You catch yourself against the wall. Your rifle clatters against the deck. Around you, the roar of the engines intensifies. The ship is beginning its descent. Someone starts singing. It's a hymn. You recognize the melody even if you don't know all the words. The Litany of the Faithful. The hymn they taught you in the processing center. The one they make you sing before every meal. A voice. A woman's voice, cracked and broken, begins the opening line, and then others join in. Not many. Most of the prisoners are too terrified or too cynical. But enough. Enough to create a sound that cuts through the engine roar, a sound that almost sounds like hope. The vibration gets worse. The entire ship is shaking now, and you realize that you're not just descending anymore. You're entering atmosphere. The heat is building. You can feel it creeping through the hull, warming the metal, making the already stale air even more suffocating. The hymn falters. More men are sick now. The deck is slick with it. The smell is overwhelming. A Vox speaker crackles to life somewhere above the crowd. Static. Then a voice. Cold, measured, official. All personnel prepare for drop deployment. Repeat. All personnel prepare for drop deployment. You will proceed to the deployment bays in an orderly fashion. You will check your equipment. You will ensure your rifle is loaded. You will ensure your magazines are secured. You will ensure your armor is fastened. Failure to comply will result in immediate execution. Understood? The voice cuts out. The silence that follows is somehow worse than the noise. Around you, prisoners are beginning to move. It's sluggish at first. People pushing against each other, trying to figure out which direction to go, trying to remember the layout of the ship from the briefing they were given what feels like a lifetime ago. You're swept along with the current. Your feet barely touch the deck. You're being carried more than you're walking, and you just hold your rifle and try not to get crushed. The deployment bay is vast. It's a cathedral of metal and machinery, a space so large that your mind has trouble processing its actual size. The walls are lined with drop pods, sleek, terrible things that look like coffins made of steel. There are dozens of them, maybe 100. Each one is designed to carry 5 soldiers down to a planet's surface, and each one is essentially a guided missile with people inside. You've heard stories about drop pods. Most of them end with the people inside, very dead. Sergeants are organizing the prisoners into groups. There's Volk, his scar looking even more pronounced in the harsh light of the bay. There's the sergeant from the firing range. There are others who don't recognize, their uniforms pristine, their eyes empty. They're moving through the crowd with practiced efficiency, pointing, shouting, herding prisoners toward specific pods. You, and you, a sergeant says, pointing at you and 4 others. Pod 7. Move. Pod 7 is against the far wall. It's smaller than you expected. The hatch is open, revealing a cramped interior with 5 seats arranged in a circle, facing inward. There's barely enough room to stand. When you're all seated, you'll be close enough to smell each other's fear. You climb in. The other 4 prisoners follow. The last one is Torvin, the young man from the firing range who is too good with a gun. His face is pale. His hands are shaking. He sits across from you, and your knees almost touch. A technician in a sealed suit appears at the hatch. He doesn't speak. He just begins the process of securing the hatch, methodically checking seals, running through what you assume is a checklist. The interior of the pod grows dimmer as the hatch rises. There's a small viewport, a circle of reinforced glass about the size of your fist. Through it, you can see the deployment bay shrinking as your pod is lifted into its launch position. The roar of the engines is muffled now, but you can feel it. You can feel the vibration in your bones. The ship is moving, and you are no longer on solid ground. You are suspended in metal and fire, hurtling toward something that will kill you, and the only thing keeping you from screaming is the knowledge that Torvin across from you is terrified enough for both of you. The ground shakes wrong. You've been on the planet for 47 minutes. The drop pod hit the landing zone like a fist, the impact rattling your teeth, your vision going white for a second. And then the hatch was blown, and Sergeant Volk was screaming at you to move, move, move. You stumbled out into gravity that felt heavier than it should, into air that tasted like copper and dust, into a world painted in shades of gray and brown and sickly green. The ravine stretched before you, a jagged wound in the earth, maybe 200 meters across, its walls lined with crystalline formations that caught the light wrong, that seemed to absorb it instead of reflecting it. Your squad was 12 strong when you left the drop zone. Sergeant Garrus was leading. A man with a scar across his jaw and eyes that had seen things on other worlds that he never talked about. You'd been with him for 3 weeks. That made him ancient. That made him someone to follow. Behind him, you were moving toward the ravine's edge, your lasgun held at low ready, your breath coming in sharp bursts through your nose. The air smelled like ozone and something organic, something that made your hindbrain scream at you to run. The radio crackled. Command, distant and crackling. All squads report position. All squads report contact status. Bravo 7, no contact, Garrus responded, his voice steady. Advancing to observation post. No contact. The words felt wrong the moment they left his mouth. The ground shakes again, and this time you feel it travel up through your boots, through your legs, settling in your chest like a second heartbeat. Garrus stops. His hand goes up, fist closed, the signal for halt. Everyone drops. You're in a crouch now, your lasgun raised, your eyes scanning the ravine's edge. There's movement down there. You can see it. Shadows shifting, things that don't move like anything you've ever seen moving before. Then they come. They pour from the ravine like water from a broken dam, and your mind refuses to process what you're seeing. There are shapes. Yes, shapes. But the shapes don't fit together in ways your eyes understand. Carapaces that reflect light like oil on water. Limbs that move in directions that don't correspond to any anatomy you've learned. There are dozens of them. Hundreds. They're moving too fast, moving with a coordination that speaks of something other than individual thought, something unified and terrible and utterly alien. Contact! Garrus is screaming. Contact, contact, contact. Xenos in the ravine, moving toward our position. Lasguns come up. You raise yours. Your hands are shaking. The shapes are still too far to shoot, maybe 80 meters away, but they're closing. They're closing fast. The ground is shaking with their movement. You can hear them now. A sound like chittering, like grinding metal, like something that has no mouth but is screaming anyway. Fire! Garrus shouts. Fire, fire, fire! The world becomes sound and heat and the smell of ozone. Your lasgun cracks. Once, twice, 3 times. You're not aiming anymore. You're just pointing and firing, and the bolts are streaking down range and hitting things, and the things are still coming. To your left, Private Torvin is firing with mechanical precision, each shot perfectly aimed, each one finding a target. To your right, a prisoner whose name you never learned is firing so fast his lasgun is starting to glow red from the heat. None of it matters. The shapes keep coming. One of them reaches the top of the ravine. Up close, it's worse. So much worse. It's insectoid, yes, but that word doesn't capture it. It's a fusion of things. A head that's all mandibles and eyes. Too many eyes. Compound eyes that catch your laser fire and scatter it. Its body is segmented, armored in chitin that your lasgun bolts are barely scorching. It has 4 limbs, no, 6, no, you can't count because they're moving too fast. And it has claws. Massive claws that could tear a man in half without effort. It tears a man in half without effort. Garrus tries to run. You see him turning, see him trying to get distance, trying to reposition. The Xeno is too fast. It moves like liquid, like it's not bound by the same physics as everything else on this world. Its claw comes up and catches Garrus across the midsection, and he folds. Just folds. His upper half goes one direction, his lower half goes another. Blood sprays impossibly red against the gray dust. And he's screaming. But the screaming cuts off because there's no lungs anymore. There's just meat and shock, and the Xeno is already moving past him, already reaching for someone else. You are the senior soldier now. You don't remember making that decision. You don't remember thinking about rank or responsibility or what you're supposed to do. But you are. Garrus is dead. Very dead. Catastrophically dead. And you're the next ranking officer, which means you have about 3 seconds before panic takes everyone, and they scatter into the fire. Squad, form on me! Your voice doesn't sound like your voice. It sounds like someone else's. Someone older. Someone who's done this before. Concentrate fire on the largest Xeno. Don't let them reach the squad. The prisoners respond. They do. You don't know why. Maybe it's because you sound like you know what you're doing. Maybe it's because in that moment, you're the only thing that looks like order in a universe that's become chaos. Last gunfire intensifies. The big Xeno, the one that killed Garrus, is suddenly taking fire from 6 different angles, and it screeches. The sound is physically painful. It's a frequency that shouldn't exist. A noise that makes your bones ache, and your teeth ache, and your eyes want to bleed. More shapes are cresting the ravine. Dozens of them. Dozens becoming hundreds. They're not stopping. They're not going to stop. They're going to keep coming until everyone here is dead, and then they're going to keep going until the whole planet is theirs. You're going to die on this planet. You're going to die in about 90 seconds. You know this. The knowledge is clear and cold and certain. But you're not going to die alone, and you're not going to die without making them pay for it. Torvin, you shout. Right flank. Dawn. Right only the completion. 1-2 sentences ending with a period to let them through the gap. Volk is already moving before you finish. His scarred face twisted in something between a snarl and a laugh, and you realize this is what he was built for, not to survive, but to drag as many of them down with him as possible. The ground shakes Ron. You've been on the planet for 47 minutes. The drop pod hit the landing zone like a fist, the impact rattling your teeth, your vision going white for a second. And then the hatch was blown, and Sergeant Volk was screaming at you to move, move, move. You stumbled out into gravity that felt heavier than it should, into air that tasted like copper and dust, into a world painted in shades of gray and brown and sickly green. The ravine stretched before you, a jagged wound in the earth, maybe 200 meters across. Its walls lined with crystalline formations that caught the light wrong, that seemed to absorb it instead of reflecting it. Your squad was 12 strong when you left the drop zone. Sergeant Garrus was leading, a man with a scar across his jaw and eyes that had seen things on other worlds that he never talked about. You'd been with him for 3 weeks. That made him ancient. That made him someone to follow. Behind him, you were moving toward the ravine's edge, your lasgun held at low ready, your breath coming in sharp bursts through your nose. The air smelled like ozone and something organic, something that made your hindbrain scream at you to run. The radio crackled. Command, distant and crackling. All squads report position. All squads report contact status. Bravo. 7, no contact, Garrus responded, his voice steady. advancing to observation post. No contact. The words felt wrong the moment they left his mouth. The ground shakes again, and this time you feel it travel up through your boots, through your legs, settling in your chest like a second heartbeat. Garrus stops. His hand goes up, fist closed, the signal for halt. Everyone drops. You're in a crouch now, your lasgun raised, your eyes scanning the ravine's edge. There's movement down there. You can see it. Shadows shifting, things that don't move like anything you've ever seen moving before. Then they come. They pour from the ravine like water from a broken dam, and your mind refuses to process what you're seeing. There are shapes. Yes, shapes. But the shapes don't fit together in ways your eyes understand. Carapaces that reflect light like oil on water. Limbs that move in directions that don't correspond to any anatomy you've learned. There are dozens of them. Hundreds. They're moving too fast. Moving with a coordination that speaks of something other than individual thought. Something unified and terrible and utterly alien. Contact! Garrus is screaming. Contact, contact, contact. Xenos in the ravine, moving toward our position. Lasguns come up. You raise yours. Your hands are shaking. The shapes are still too far to shoot, maybe 80 meters away, but they're closing. They're closing fast. The ground is shaking with their movement. You can hear them now, a sound like chittering, like grinding metal, like something that has no mouth but is screaming anyway. Fire! Garrus shouts. Fire, fire, fire. The world becomes sound and heat and the smell of ozone. Your lasgun cracks, once, twice, 3 times. You're not aiming anymore. You're just pointing and firing, and the bolts are streaking downrange and hitting things, and the things are still coming. To your left, Private Torvin is firing with mechanical precision, each shot perfectly aimed, each one finding a target. To your right, a prisoner whose name you never learned is firing so fast, his lasgun is starting to glow red from the heat. None of it matters. The shapes keep coming. One of them reaches the top of the ravine. Up close, it's worse. So much worse. It's insectoid, yes, but that word doesn't capture it. It's a fusion of things. A head that's all mandibles and eyes, too many eyes. Compound eyes that catch your laser fire and scatter it. Its body is segmented, armored in chitin that your lasgun bolts are barely scorching. It has 4 limbs. No, 6. No, you can't count because they're moving too fast. And it has claws. Massive claws that could tear a man in half without effort. It tears a man in half without effort. Garrus tries to run. You see him turning, see him trying to get distance, trying to reposition. The Xeno is too fast. It moves like liquid, like it's not bound by the same physics as everything else on this world. Its claw comes up and catches Garrus across the midsection, and he folds. Just folds. His upper half goes one direction, his lower half goes another. Blood sprays, impossibly red against the gray dust. And he's screaming. But the screaming cuts off because there's no lungs anymore. There's just meat and shock, and the Xeno is already moving past him, already reaching for someone else. The moment crystallizes. You're still firing. Everyone is still firing. But the noise has changed. There's an edge of panic in it now, a desperation. Garrus is gone. Garrus, who you've been following for 3 weeks, who you've learned to trust because trust was the only thing keeping you alive, is no longer in pieces. He's just pieces now. Meat scattered on gray dust. The Xeno that killed him is already moving to its next target, and no one is stopping it because no one knows how to stop it. You realize with a clarity that cuts through the chaos that you are the ranking soldier now. The thought arrives like a punch. You don't feel qualified. You've been alive on this planet for less than a minute. You've fired a lasgun in anger for the first time in your life. You have no idea what you're doing. But Garrus is dead, and the next most senior man is Volk, who is a sergeant and is probably still moving toward the ravine's edge, and there's no one else. There is only you. Squad, form on me. Your voice doesn't sound like your voice. It sounds like someone else's, someone older, someone who's done this before. Concentrate fire on the largest Xeno. Don't let them reach the squad. The prisoners respond. They do. You don't know why. Maybe it's because you sound like you know what you're doing. Maybe it's because, in that moment, you're the only thing that looks like order in a universe that's become chaos. Maybe it's just that they're terrified enough to follow anyone who sounds like they have a plan. Lasgun fire intensifies. The big Xeno, the one that killed Garrus, takes a volley of fire across its chitinous hide and shrieks, a sound that vibrates through your teeth and makes your vision blur. You fire again and again, and your hands don't shake because there's no time for them to shake, because Garrus is in pieces behind you, and you are the only thing standing between these condemned men and the same fate. The trench smells like copper and human waste, and the sweet, sick rot of things that died yesterday and are still dying today. You don't know how many hours have passed. Time has become something abstract, something that doesn't matter anymore. Your chronometer says 36 hours. Your body says longer. Your mind says you died somewhere around hour 18, and everything since has been a ghost's memory of suffering. But you're still here. You're still firing, you're still breathing, which is the only thing that proves you're not dead yet. The Xenos don't seem to need rest. They come in waves, that's what you've started calling them, waves, like they're water instead of living things made of chitin and hunger. The first wave hit at dusk, the second came at midnight. The third, the fourth, you've stopped counting. They keep coming, and you keep firing. And the men around you keep dying and being replaced by other men who also die, and the only constant is the weight of your lasgun and the burn in your shoulders and the knowledge that if you stop firing for even a moment, they will pour over this trench and tear everyone here into pieces. Volk is still beside you. You don't know why. He's a sergeant. He should be 3 positions down the line, coordinating with the other squads, making sure ammunition is distributed, making sure people don't break. Instead, he's here, shoulder to shoulder with you, his flak armor torn in a dozen places. Blood. His blood. Xeno blood. You can't tell anymore. Soaked into the fabric. He's grinning. Not smiling. Grinning. Like this is funny. Like this is the best thing that's ever happened to him. Not so bad, is it? He says, and he's laughing, actually laughing, while he fires a burst that catches a Xeno in what might be its face. The creature shrieks and dies, and Volk is already pivoting to the next target. Better than the grinder, eh? At least here we know what we're dying for. You don't respond. You can't. Your throat is raw from screaming orders, from shouting encouragement to men who are terrified, from just making noise to prove you're still alive. Your eyes are gritty, with dust and cordite and something else, ash maybe, from the promethium fires they set at the edge of the perimeter to light up the killing field. Your hands are blistered from the heat of your lasgun. Your finger doesn't work right anymore on your trigger hand, but you've learned to compensate. You've learned a lot of things in 36 hours. You've learned that men can keep fighting even after they're shot. You've learned that fear tastes like copper. You've learned that the moment you accept you're going to die is the moment you stop being afraid and start being useful. You've learned that Volk was right. You were already dead. You just took this long to figure it out. A Xeno crests the trench wall. It's smaller than the big ones, maybe only 2 meters long, but it moves like liquid, and its claws are already reaching for Private Cass, who's 3 positions to your left. Cass sees it coming. Cass tries to raise his lasgun. Cass is too slow. The claw catches him across the chest and opens him like a letter, and Kess is screaming. But Volk is already moving, already firing, already putting 3 bolts into the creature's head, and it's falling back into the trench, and Kess is falling too, trying to hold his insides in with both hands. Someone else takes Kess's position. You don't see who. There's no time to see. There's only the rhythm. Fire, shift, fire, reload from the ammunition boxes that are getting lower and lower. Fire again. The Xenos keep coming. The sun rises and falls and rises again. Your chronometer says 36 hours. Your body has stopped believing in time. Around hour 20, you realized you were crying. You weren't sad. You weren't scared anymore. You were just leaking fluid from your eyes while you fired your lasgun, and it seemed as good a way as any to mark the passage of hours. Volk noticed. He reached over and wiped your face with the back of his hand, smearing blood across your cheek, and he said, "That's good. That means you still feel something. Don't lose that." Then he went back to shooting things. Hour 24 brought a moment of silence. Not quiet. The Xenos were still there. You could still hear them moving in the darkness beyond the perimeter lights, but a moment where no one was actively dying. You used it to check ammunition. 3 magazines left. Volk had one. The man to your right, Torvin, you think, though you're not sure anymore, had 2. Everyone else had less. When the ammunition ran out, you'd have to use your bayonet. When the bayonet broke, you'd have to use your hands. When your hands gave out, you'd die. That seemed fine. Hour 30 brought a moment of hope, which was worse than despair. Someone said the fleet was coming. Someone said they'd heard it on the Vox. The regiment was being evacuated. The whole hive was being written off, but the survivors were being pulled out. You wanted to believe it. You almost did. But Volk laughed, and the laugh was so bitter it tasted like ash in your mouth, and he said, "If they were coming for us, they wouldn't have left us here in the first place." He was right. You knew he was right. The condemned don't get rescue. The condemned get used up and thrown away. Hour 35, and the Xenos attack with new intensity. They're hungry now, or desperate, or maybe they're just tired of this game. They come in numbers that don't make sense, pouring over the trench walls faster than you can shoot them. Your lasgun is so hot it's starting to glow, and you're firing anyway because stopping means dying faster. Around you, men are screaming. Some are praying. Some are just making noise. Volk is still grinning, still firing, still beside you like he's tethered to you by something stronger than orders or fear or reason. Then it stops. Not the Xenos. They're still there, still moving in the darkness. But the attack. They pull back. All of them. Like someone gave a signal you couldn't hear. They retreat into the darkness beyond the perimeter lights, and the trench is suddenly full of a silence so profound it feels like drowning. You stand there, your lasgun still raised, your hands still shaking, and realize you're breathing in gasps, each one tasting of promethium smoke and copper and your own burnt throat. Volk turns to you, that grin still painted across his blood-crusted face, and says something you can't quite hear over the ringing in your ears. But you understand it anyway. You're still alive. The faces blur together after a while. That's the mercy of it. If you remembered everyone clearly, you'd go mad faster than the attrition would kill you. Torvin dies on day 53. You know this because you carved a mark into the trench wall that morning, another notch in a long line of notches that have stopped meaning anything. He takes a xenoclaw across the neck, and he's gone before he even falls. You step over him. You have to. There's no time for goodbyes. No time for anything except the next shot, the next breath, the next moment of not being dead. By evening, someone new is standing in his spot. You don't ask his name. Names are anchors, and anchors will drag you down when they die. Days blur into weeks. The regiment, what's left of it, has stopped rotating people back for rest. There's nowhere to rotate them to. The rear positions are as dangerous as the front. The medical tent is full of men who should be dead but aren't, who are screaming things that don't sound like words anymore. The supply lines have been cut twice. The water rations are half what they were. People are starting to drink the stagnant water from shell craters, and those people die a different kind of death. Slower, messier, with their insides turning to liquid. You watch it happen. You can't stop it. You can only make sure they're not standing next to you when it happens, because the smell is worse than the screaming. Kess is long dead. You've forgotten when. Weeks ago. Maybe a month. The trench has absorbed him into itself. His blood is part of the mud now. His bones are part of the earth. Sometimes you step on something hard and you don't look down to see what it is. That's the mercy of it. Volk is still here. You don't know why. He should have been killed 100 times over. He's been shot twice, once in the shoulder, once in the leg. He's been clawed. He's been burned. His left eye is milky white from a scar that runs from his forehead to his jaw. He moves like something that's already dead and just hasn't stopped walking yet. And he still grins. Even now, after 6 weeks of this, after watching his entire original squad become names on a memorial that no one will ever read, he still grins when he kills things. You've become something you don't recognize. Your reflection in the water of a shell crater shows you a stranger, hollow-eyed, gaunt, with a beard that's turned gray in places even though you're not old enough for that. Your hands move without your permission now. You wake up firing. You fall asleep with your finger on the trigger. Volk says this is good. Volk says it means you finally accepted what you are. You're a weapon now. Not a man, not a prisoner, a weapon. The Imperium doesn't waste weapons on mercy. The replacements stop learning names around week 4. At first, the new men would introduce themselves. Scared kids pulled from somewhere, anywhere, drafted into the penal legions because they committed some minor crime or no crime at all. They'd tell you their names and where they were from and what they wanted to do if they survived. By week 4, they'd stopped bothering. A man would arrive in the morning and be dead by evening, and another would take his place, and no one would ask who he was. There's a kind of horror in that, worse than the Xenos, worse than the blood, worse than the knowledge that you're going to die here. It's the horror of being so utterly disposable that your name doesn't matter. You've stopped counting how many men have died beside you. At some point, the number became abstract. Hundreds, maybe. The whole regiment was maybe 3,000 strong when you landed. Command says you're down to 800 combat effective. You don't believe Command anymore. Command is distant and crackling and sometimes doesn't respond at all. Command is the voice that tells you to hold the line, to stand firm, to die with honor. Command is a ghost. Day 61 brings a moment of hope that feels like a knife. The Vox crackles. Not the usual static, but actual words, actual communication. Someone is shouting about evacuation. Someone is saying the fleet is coming. Someone is saying that the regiment is being pulled out, that the hive is being abandoned, that survivors are being extracted. For a moment, just a moment, you believe it. You feel something shift in your chest, something that might be relief or might be the beginning of hope, and it's so painful you almost double over. Then Volk laughs. That same bitter laugh from hour 30 of the siege. "They're not coming for us," he says. His voice is flat. "We're not on the evacuation list. We're too useful right here." You know he's right. You've always known he's right. The condemned don't get saved. The condemned get used until they break, and then they get replaced. That's the bargain you made when you chose the gun instead of the noose. That's the choice you've been paying for ever since, and you'll keep paying for it until there's nothing left to pay with. The Xenos attack again that night. They always do. The waves keep coming, and you keep firing, and the faces keep blurring together. And somewhere in the distance, ships are burning, and the sky is splitting open with fire and light, and you're still here, still alive, still holding the line because that's what weapons do. They don't question, they don't hope, they just keep working until they break. You fire. The Xeno dies. Another takes its place. Another dies. Another comes. The rhythm is eternal. The rhythm is all you have left. And as the darkness deepens and the Xenos press harder and the ammunition gets lower, you understand with a terrible, perfect clarity that this is how it ends. Not with rescue, not with honor, not with anything except the gradual grinding down of human flesh against an enemy that will never stop coming, in a war that was lost the moment they put chains on your wrists and told you that you were already dead. The Vox crackles at 0347 hours on what you've stopped calling day 68. You know it's 0347 because you've been staring at your chronometer for the last 3 hours, watching the numbers change, watching time move in a way that feels like it's dragging you forward by your hair. You're in the command trench, not because you've been promoted, but because Volk dragged you there to help with the ammunition redistribution. The old command post got shelled 2 days ago. Now they've set up in a reinforced dugout that smells like burnt wire and desperation. The Vox operator, a thin man named Cassian whose hands shake constantly, is trying to raise the regimental command net. He's been trying for hours. Mostly he gets static. Sometimes he gets fragments of other units calling for support that never comes. Volk is leaning against the trench wall, his good eye closed, his scarred face slack with something that might be exhaustion or might be resignation. You're sorting ammunition by magazine capacity, a task so repetitive that your hands do it without your brain's involvement. Load. Count. Stack. Load. Count. Stack. The rhythm is hypnotic. It's the only thing keeping you from thinking about how low the ammunition is getting. 3 days, maybe 4, and then you're fighting with bayonets. After that, you're fighting with rocks. After that, you're not fighting anymore. Cassian leans forward suddenly, his hand pressing the Vox receiver harder against his ear. His whole body goes rigid. "Say again," he whispers. "Say again, I didn't copy." The static continues. You stop sorting ammunition. Volk's eye opens. The voice comes through clearer this time, and it's not anyone's voice you recognize. It's too calm, too official. High Gothic mixed with low Gothic, the way officers speak when they're delivering orders that they know will be received with something other than enthusiasm. She, fleet elements withdrawing to secondary positions. Hive in furnace, designated for strategic abandonment. Civilian evacuation commencing. All non-essential personnel to report to extraction points. Penal Legion units remain in defensive posture pending further orders. Cassian's hand is shaking so badly he nearly drops the receiver. Volk is very still. You've learned to recognize the stillness. It's the stillness of a man who's just had something confirmed that he already knew but was hoping against. The stillness of a man who's been told he's going to die. Confirm, Cassian is saying into the Vox, his voice cracking. Confirm evacuation status for 447th Penal Regiment, 2nd Battalion. The response takes 11 seconds. You count them. 11 seconds of static that sounds like the universe breathing. 447th Penal Regiment, listed as garrison force. Remain in position. Hold the line until relief arrives. Cassian's face is the color of old bone. Relief arrives. The phrase hangs in the air like a smell. Relief arrives, like it's a thing that happens. Like there's some possibility in the universe where ships are coming for you. Like the Imperium sends rescue parties to condemned men in a hive that's being abandoned. Volk starts laughing. It's not the grin laugh you've learned to expect from him. It's something else. It's the laugh of a man who's finally been proven right about the one thing he never wanted to be right about. "There it is," he says, and his voice is steady, which is somehow worse than if he'd sounded terrified. "There's the Imperium, there's the Emperor's mercy. You're not moving. Your hands are still on the ammunition. Load, count, stack. Except you're not doing it. You're just holding the magazines, watching them blur because your eyes aren't focusing anymore. How many?" you hear yourself ask. Cassian doesn't answer. He's staring at the Vox receiver like it's a thing that's betrayed him personally. "How many are on the evacuation list?" you ask again. Your voice sounds like someone else's. It sounds like a man who's just realized something fundamental about the world, something that changes everything and nothing at the same time. "Civilians," Cassian says quietly. "Command staff, support personnel, medical corps, combat units that aren't designated penal forces." The list is long. The list is everyone except us." Volk sits down, just sits down, his back against the trench wall, his scarred face tilted up toward the ceiling of the dugout like he's trying to see through it to the sky beyond. "Did they say how long?" he asks. "Evacuation commences in 72 hours, Cassian reads from the Vox transcript in a voice that sounds like it's coming from very far away. "Fleet withdrawal to commence at 600 hours, day 71. All personnel not assigned to garrison forces should report to extraction points." 72 hours. 3 days. You're trying to do the mathematics of it. How many Xenos can attack in 3 days? How much ammunition you have? What happens when the ammunition runs out? The numbers don't work. The numbers have never worked. That's been the entire calculus of this war. The numbers don't work. But you keep fighting anyway because the alternative is to stop. "We're holding the line until they leave," Volk says. It's not a question, it's a statement of fact, delivered with the same tone he might use to say, "The sun is rising," or "water is wet." "We're dying in the dark, so the Imperium can pull out. That's the plan. That's always been the plan." You think about the replacements. You think about Torvin and Kess and all the men whose names you never learned because learning names was a luxury you couldn't afford. You think about the fact that you volunteered for this, that you chose the gun instead of the noose, that you made a choice. And this is what the choice cost you. "The Xenos don't know," you hear yourself say. "The Xenos don't know they're winning." "The Xenos don't care," Volk corrects, and there's something almost gentle in his voice. That's the difference between us and them. They don't care about victory or defeat or honor or duty. They just eat. And we just die. And in 3 days, everyone who matters will be gone, and the rest of us will still be here, still fighting, still dying, still holding the line for people who've already written us off. Cassian is still staring at the V. Cassian is still staring at the void, and you realize he's not seen the darkness anymore. He's already gone, already among the dead, already written off like the rest of you. You turn back to your rifle, check the charge for the 100th time, and wait for the sky to fall. The ships arrive like a prophecy made manifest. You see them first as a disturbance in the cloud cover, a rippling as if reality itself is being pulled taut. Then the clouds part, and the darkness pours through. They're massive. The human mind isn't built to process objects of that scale, so your brain keeps breaking the image into smaller pieces and reassembling them wrong. A bridge the size of a hive sector, guns that could level mountains, hull plating that bears the scars of wars fought across star systems you'll never see. The Imperial Navy withdrawing. The fleet that was supposed to hold the line now abandoning it. You're in the trench at 0417 hours, day 70. The Xenos have been quiet for the last few hours. That dead-of-night lull where they retreat to their nests, and you're left with the sound of your own breathing and the wind cutting across the broken landscape. Volk is 2 positions down, checking magazines. Cassian is still in the command dugout, probably still staring at the Vox like it owes him an explanation. And you're standing. Watch, your lasgun loose in your hands, your eyes on the ravine because that's where they always come from. And you've learned that the moment you stop watching is the moment they'll come harder. Then Cassian's voice cuts through the Vox network, and it's shaking so badly you can barely make out the words. All units, contact overhead. Multiple capital-class contacts descending through the upper atmosphere. Your eyes go up. The sky is burning. It's not metaphorical. It's not the kind of thing poets write about. The atmosphere itself is on fire, torn open by the sheer mass of descending warships. The leading vessel is an Emperor-class battleship, and it's dying. You can see the impact trails where enemy fire has scored its hull. You can see the secondary explosions rippling across its surface like a heartbeat made visible. It's enormous and impossible, and it's falling, and as you watch, the entire starboard section detonates in a bloom of light so bright it casts shadows across the trench. The light is white. Absolute. It burns the silhouettes of the men around you into your retinas. For a moment, there is no darkness anywhere in the universe. There is only the light and the sound. A roar that comes from above and below and inside your own skull. A sound so loud it stops being sound and becomes sensation, becomes pressure, becomes the physical force of something vast and dying. Then it's gone. The battleship is gone. What's left is a debris field, metal the size of hab blocks tumbling through the sky, trailing fire and atmosphere, and the last moments of thousands of crew who never made it to the extraction points. More ships are descending. A lunar-class cruiser, its engines blazing at full burn, trying to provide cover fire for the civilian transports that are already moving up and away from the hive. A dictator-class cruiser taking fire from something massive and tentacled that's risen up from the planet's surface. Something you haven't seen before, something that towers above the hive. Spires like the hive. Spires tower above men. The cruiser's guns are firing, and the creature's flesh is burning, and both of them are dying at the same time, locked together in a dance that will end with both of them falling into the hive. Volk has moved up to stand beside you. You didn't see him move. You've learned that Volk moves like smoke, present one moment, somewhere else the next, there, but not there. There's the Emperor's light, he says quietly. His good eye is fixed on the sky, on the burning ships, on the slow collapse of the Imperium's presence above the hive. There's the glory of the Imperium. There's what we're dying for. You want to argue? You want to tell him that this is necessary, that the fleet has to leave, that they're pulling back to save what they can. You want to believe that there's a reason for it, that there's a strategy, that somewhere in the distant command centers of the Imperium, someone is looking at this and thinking about how to turn it around. But you're not naive anymore. You stopped being naive around day 20, when you realized that the commanders didn't have a plan, that they were just feeding men into the meat grinder and hoping that enough bodies would jam up the machinery. You stopped believing in strategy around day 40, when the supply lines got cut and no one sent reinforcements. And you stopped believing in anything at all around day 60, when they told you that the fleet was coming and then told you that the fleet was leaving. The sky is full of falling ships now. There are at least 5 capital-class vessels in the descent pattern, and more are coming in behind them. The Xenos have adapted. They're clustering around the dropships, trying to cut off the evacuation before it can complete. You can see the tracery of weapons fire, the bright lines of las batteries and plasma cannons cutting through the darkness, burning Xenos out of the sky like insects. But there are so many Xenos. They pour from the ravine in waves that don't stop. They're not attacking the trench line anymore. They're ignoring you, pressing forward toward the evacuation zones, toward the capital ships, toward the Imperium's last desperate attempt to save something from this catastrophe. And you understand, with a clarity that feels like ice water in your veins, that you're not holding the line to protect the evacuation anymore. You're holding the line to buy time. Time for the ships to load. Time for the fleet to disengage. Time for the Imperium to cut its losses and leave. And when the time is up, you'll keep holding the line anyway, because that's what weapons do. The Vox crackles. It's not Cassian's voice this time. It's a command officer, someone high enough that their voice carries the weight of the Imperium's authority. The high Gothic is precise, clipped, delivered with the tone of someone who's already moved on to the next problem. All garrison forces remain in position. Hold the line until hour 600 hours. Day 71. At that time, you are cleared to conduct fighting withdrawal to secondary defensive positions. The Emperor watches. 72 hours has become 22 hours. The deadline has been moved up. The evacuation is faster than expected. Or maybe the Xenos are pressing harder. Or maybe Command has just decided that you've served your purpose, and now it's time to wrap things up, to make sure the paperwork is clean, to ensure that when the final report is filed, there's no ambiguity about what happened to the Last Chance Battalion. You lower the Vox handset. 22 hours. You look at Volk, and he's already looking at you, and in his eyes you see the same thing you felt the moment the judge said your name, the understanding that this was always how it would end. The chronometer reads 0543 hours when the order comes through. All units, this is command. Evacuation complete. Fleet is disengaging. You have 17 minutes to execute fighting withdrawal to secondary positions. After that, you're on your own. The Emperor protects. The Emperor protects. You've heard that phrase 10,000 times. You've said it yourself when you had nothing else to hold on to. It's the last prayer of the condemned, the final comfort offered to men who are about to die. The Emperor protects, and therefore your death means something. Your death serves a purpose. Your death is not waste. It's sacrifice. You know better now. Volk is moving along the trench line, and you're moving with him because that's what you do now. You move when he moves. You follow because following is easier than deciding. The remnants of your platoon are scattered across the defensive positions. Maybe 30 men out of the 120 you started with. The rest are in the ground, or in the Xenos, or simply gone, vapor and ash, and the kind of absence that the Imperium never quite accounts for in its ledgers. Torvin is still here. He shouldn't be. He took a last round through the shoulder 3 days ago, and the wound has gone septic, his arm hanging useless and black with infection. But he's here anyway, his lasgun propped against his good shoulder, his face the color of old parchment. Kess is here too, though you barely recognize him anymore. The bombardment yesterday took most of his face. He's wrapped in bandages that are already stained through, and he hasn't spoken since it happened. He just loads and fires, a machine that still remembers how to function even though the man inside it is already gone. Garrus's replacement, a boy whose name you never learned because he arrived 3 days ago and you've learned not to learn names, is checking his magazine with shaking hands. He's maybe 18. He has the kind of face that suggests he was beautiful once, before the trenches, before the fear, before the understanding that the Imperium sent him here to die. He's crying. Not loudly, just the silent tears of someone who's finally grasped that there is no escape, no trick, no last-minute salvation. There's only this moment and the moments that follow it, each one darker than the last. The Xenos are quiet. It's worse than when they're attacking. The silence has weight to it. It's the silence of something vast and patient. something that's learned to wait because it knows that time is on its side. The ravine is a darkness within darkness, a void that your eyes can't quite penetrate, even though you've been staring into it for 70 days straight. Somewhere in that darkness, they're waiting. Thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands. The estimates stopped being reliable around day 50. "Listen up," Volk says, and his voice is steady in a way that feels impossible. "We're not going anywhere. When they give the order to fall back, we're going to hold. We're going to hold this line until they can't push us any further, and then we're going to hold the next line and the line after that, and we're going to keep holding until there's nothing left to hold with." "Sergeant," Torvin says, and his voice is thin as paper, "we can't hold. There's not enough of us. There's not enough ammunition. There's not." "I know," Volk says, and he does know. That's the thing that hits you hardest. He's not delusional. He's not pretending that there's a way through this. He knows exactly what's coming, and he's chosen it anyway. We hold because that's what we do, because the alternative is to run, and if we run, they get to the evacuation points faster. We hold because holding is what soldiers do. He looks at you, and in that look, you see something that might be respect or might be recognition. It's the look of a man acknowledging another man who understands what it means to be condemned. "You ready?" he asks. "No," you say. It's the only honest thing you've said in 70 days. "Good," Volk says. "If you were ready for this, you'd already be dead." The ground shakes. It's not the usual tremor of distant artillery or the rumble of heavy weapons fire. This is something else. This is the sound of the planet itself moving. You feel it in your teeth, in your bones, in the metal of your lasgun. The ravine begins to glow. Not with light, but with heat. The darkness takes on a reddish tinge, and you realize that the walls of the ravine are moving, that the Xenos are coming, not in waves anymore, but in a tide so vast that it defies comprehension. They pour over the lip of the ravine like an infection erupting from a wound. There's no time to think. There's no time to be afraid. There's only the sound and the motion and the absolute certainty that you're about to die. Your hands move through the sequence without your mind's involvement. Aim, fire, aim, fire. The recoil of the lasgun is familiar now. It's like a heartbeat. Aim, fire. The Xenos are close enough that you can see the individual segments of their exoskeletons, close enough that you can smell them. A stench like burnt meat and ozone and something organic that your brain refuses to fully process. Kess is firing beside you, his bandaged hands steady on his weapon. He's not aiming anymore. He's just pointing the gun in the direction of the Xenos and pulling the trigger over and over, a rhythm that's become automatic. Around you, the other men are doing the same. Torvin, despite his wound, is methodically picking targets. The boy whose name you don't know is screaming, a sound that's somewhere between prayer and defiance, his lasgun bucking in his hands as he pours fire into the advancing horde. Volk is laughing again, that terrible laugh. But this time it's different. This time it sounds almost peaceful. "There!" he shouts, and he's pointing at the sky. "There's the Emperor!" There's his light. You look up, and the sky is full of stars. Not stars. Lasfire. Hundreds of Lasfire batteries from the capital ships, from the cruisers that are still in orbit, from the last desperate attempt to provide cover for the fleeing evacuation. The Xenos are lit up like insects in front of a flame, their carapaces burning, their bodies falling from the sky in trails of ash and ember. For a moment, just one moment, you believe Volk is right, that this is divine fire, that the Emperor's will is still reaching down to touch this cursed world, and you fire until your lasgun overheats and the barrel glows cherry red in your hands.